All right, we're ready.
Welcome to the July 9th, 2025 meeting of the Town of Southampton Conservation Board. The board's meetings continue to be hybrid, which means they are both in person at Town Hall and via video conference through Zoom webinar. If you go to the town website and click on the town clerk's agendas and meetings portal, you can watch the live stream video of the meeting, and there is a link to submit written comments for the public record. You can also join the Zoom webinar through the town clerk's portal. If you are attending via Zoom and wish to speak during the meeting, then please alert our moderator by clicking the raise hand icon or type in the mailbox. Thank you. I invite everyone to rise for the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What is your pleasure on the minutes of June 25th, 2025?
Will be accepted as presented or amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearings, A019125, Jeffrey W. Howell. Can you just check and see if that mic is on? Push that button if it's not. Now
it's green. We are here, I think it's the second time we're before the board regarding this application. We have met with Marty Shea on site, in which we developed a footprint which was shown on the site plan in blue, that seemed to take into account for all the natural site features, especially that change in topography and that knoll that we really have worked hard to design to protect. And so from there, from the approved footprint that we worked with Marty, we've designed a house that is contained inside that area. And so the footprint of the proposed house is now going to be 1,180 square feet. That is reduced from the original proposal of by 290 square feet. And we also have proposed a cantilever walkway and stairway. This is to allow for access for the septic system to be serviced and emergency service if needed. This walkway will be constructed out of a material that allows air and light to be transmitted through to allow the vegetation to thrive underneath. We've also utilized the parking area for two safe parking spots that's required by town code to house our septic system, leaching field, and dry wells. The retaining wall at its maximum height will be 10 feet in height and decrease as it gets closer to the road. And so we have taken into account the comments from the last meeting and think we've come up with a very fair and reasonable proposal. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Two things. Marty's already stated that most of the work will be done off a barge. I just want to
Correct.
assurance that that's true.
Yeah, we are.
Just for my own knowledge, I wanted to know who your plumber is.
You know, that I don't have. We don't have the contractor selected just yet, but we're going to figure it out.
Okay.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This is a well-designed project. As indicated by the applicant, I worked closely with the landowners in order to ensure that this property could be redeveloped in a manner that would have minimal environmental impacts. The site is marked by very steeply sloped forested terrain with large mature trees. Descends quickly from Noack Road to a level bulkheaded area along Noack Bay where an existing cottage stands. Rather than look to site the new residence further inland, which would have required considerable cut and fill, resulting in tremendous damage to the forested slope. We agreed to site the new dwelling and accessory decks, essentially in the same footprint of the existing cottage, so that it will have minimal, if no impact, to the rear sloped terrain. There is just one dead or failing tree that needs to be removed. The applicant is protecting all the remaining large trees on the site. They're providing a naturally vegetated buffer along the immediate shoreline. They're elevating the dwelling on pilings. They're cantilevering sections so that it will have minimal ground disturbance. As indicated, they've cited the IAOWTS up in a shoulder naturalized parking area adjacent to Noack Road, with a light, penetrable, elevated decked walkway to be built to provide access down to the new home. A pump station will be installed in order for the new sanitary system to work in light of the residents, new residents being at a significantly lower elevation than the new sanitary system. The applicant has fully committed not only to establishing the covenanted naturally vegetated buffer, but also to protecting that forested terrain, which is so essential with respect to the scenic character and ecology of Noack Bay. So I'd like to commend the applicant and landowners for working closely with me on this project. It's a great design that will have minimal wetland impact. As such, recommending that the hearing be closed tonight, and that at the next meeting, the project plans be approved. Thank you.
Any questions by the board? Big improvement from the last presentation.
Yes.
Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak in this application or on Zoom? There being none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Did you know the sisters? Huh? Oh, yeah. Did you know the sisters?
Yeah.
A 024044 Bradley A. Edgar and Lauren D. Edgar.
This is a new public hearing. We do have affidavits of posting and mailing, and the board does have jurisdiction to open the hearing tonight.
Aram?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Aram Tortunian, First Coastal, West Hampton Beach, New York, on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined this evening by Mrs. Lauren Edgar, who is one of the applicants. Thanks for making the time to speak with us tonight. This project is fairly modest in its scope, but it has a long history, as you probably read in Marty's report. The Edgars came into possession of this property just about 2 years ago, just shy of 2 years ago, and reinitiated the process to get this permit approved. What they're looking to do, as I said, is pretty modest in scope. There's a small addition on the south side of the house. They want to legalize a basement with an egress window, and there's a porch on the front, away from the wetland. And in the overall scope, we're going to install a new IA system. I think the only real sticking point here is the size of the buffer. So we had, in our initial submittal, recommended a 15-foot buffer. Marty came back and suggested a 30-foot buffer. We had a conversation, and he said 25, and I said I really wanted to talk to the board about this. So I don't know if any of the board members had an opportunity to go to this site. This is an ephemeral creek bed. There's no hydric soils. It's all sandy. There are no wetland plants at all, either in the creek bed or adjacent to the creek bed. It serves a function as basically a drainage ditch. It's connected to a Suffolk County DPW drainage pipe that goes from Montauk Highway underneath actually my property, and then through the elementary school where there's a head wall that it empties into this basically dry creek bed. And so when we have big rains, we get water flowing down there, but literally a day after that, it's dry. So I don't really want to argue the point as to whether or not it's a wetland. I think would be a waste of everybody's time. But I think a very modest buffer here will accomplish all of the things that are protective to this area. And what the applicant's asking to do is really quite modest. And relocating the sanitary system and making a new IA system, is a tremendous benefit to everyone. So I would ask, your consideration that we be permitted to exercise the 15-foot buffer as we had originally proposed. And for the board's information, I'll just hand up some photos.
While you're doing that, Aram, is there anything newer than the plan that was stamped October? The most recent survey in the file is June, stamped June, and this is October. Is there anything more recent I should be looking at, or that's it? Okay.
That's a planting plan.
Yeah, but it was such a while ago, I want to make sure there's nothing new.
That's
Okay, thank you.
story history.
Thank you.
We have a survey with the stream on it.
There's just a couple of surveys. The most recent one was just the planning plan, so I throw a hand down.
No, it's- you don't have that survey that you had this morning, do you?
I'm sorry, well, I'll be,
It's for us to share.
Okay.
So, just want to walk you through these photos. The first one in the upper left is taken from the north edge of the property. You can see the property marker on the left side. And we're, just looking down the stream bed where you can see the sand. There's, as noted here, there's no hydrophilic vegetation. There's only invasive knotweed. I was just there about an hour ago, and this season's knotweed is making its appearance. And then the photo below that is basically from the south end of the property, just looking up this creek bed again. And then on the upper right are just photos of, red oaks and white oaks. Those are all, substantial upland plants. And the lower right is again from the southern end, just a slightly different angle on it. Just again, showing, these conditions as I've described them. And I think Mrs. Edgar would like to address the board for a moment.
Before you do, a question for you, Aram. Did you flag the wetlands here?
I did, yeah.
Okay. I'm curious why you said there's no wetlands when you flagged them.
Well, I flagged them because I've worked in this area before, and I knew that Marty was going to flag them. So I went and I put a flag basically at the boundary of the creek bed. But as I said to the board, I don't really want to argue whether or not it's a wetland. I think what is more pertinent is what's the value of this wetland, and how do we protect this area, which quite frankly, I don't think is a wetland, but how do we protect the values that this stream bed performs? So the values that it performs is it's an outlet for the stormwater that's coming off of Montauk Highway. And by not disturbing it and by providing a modest buffer next to it, where if there is any horrendous rainfall, water could flow into that buffer. I think those are perfectly appropriate. I just don't think that,
You're saying that it acts more like a drainage basin.
yeah, it's a conduit, basically, is what it is.
And Chapter 325 recommends a minimum buffer for a drainage basin of 25 feet.
I don't know that I would call it a basin. It's not holding anything. It's a conduit that water is passing through.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lauren Dio Edgar. Just want to thank the board for taking their time to hear our case. We're so excited about living in this house. I've grown up in West Hampton, as does my family, for generations. And we think the application we put in front of you strikes a good balance between the modest addition we want to do, preserving some of the yard, and also protecting the environment and environmental integrity of the piece of property. We hope you agree.
Well, while you're getting up there, Marty, I see the chain link fence going along the edge of the buffer, but there can't be anything in the buffer. If there's going to be a pool fence, it's got to be outside whatever buffer's agreed to.
The pool is elevated
Okay.
on a deck, so there's a gate
It has
up
it
there.
Okay. I just saw chain link fence, and the chain link fence does go through that area that's considered buffer, so I'm not sure how that's going to stay. If it's close enough to the edge, I don't know how you feel.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated February 3rd, 2025. The application has been made not only to get this board's approval on a wetland permit to allow for additional improvements at the property. There are also changes that were made to the site under the prior ownership that need to be legalized, including, among others, reconstruction of the pool deck. The application, as was alluded to, does seek significant relief from the code-required wetland construction setbacks for developed properties, which, as this board knows, the minimum wetland building setback that's required is 100 feet. The minimum buffer is 75 feet. Just to touch on some of the setbacks of this project, the southwesterly addition would be located 75 feet from wetlands. The converted basement is further landward. The reconstructed wood pool deck and steps located only 41.9 feet from wetlands. And then there are other utilities such as an outdoor shower, above ground propane tanks that need to be legalized as well. Some changes are being made to the pervious drive. The applicant has agreed to install the necessary subsurface drainage. There are various walkways that are planned as well. Just to give you a sense of where this property is located, the Femoral stream is regulated by both the state DEC and the town as freshwater wetlands. And the first aerial that I will hand out shows position of the subject property is outlined in red relative to a long blue shaded corridor of state regulated freshwater wetlands. The affected ephemeral intermittent stream essentially acts as the headwaters for Oneck Creek, which is a tributary to Mauritius Bay. In order to show you how the stream bed is positioned relative to Mauritius Bay, I have a second handout. Again, the subject property is outlined in red. You see the corridor of freshwater and tidal wetlands that flow into Onet Creek and make their way to Mauritius Bay. To give you a handle on the vulnerability of the stream bed to flooding, I'd like to hand out a FEMA flood zone map. Now, what this is showing is that the rear lower portion of the subject property is within a flood zone, so as such is vulnerable to significant changes in water levels and flooding during significant storm events. The next handouts I'd like to provide are site photos that were taken by myself and my staff. The first site photo was taken on March 17th. And there's a couple of things that you're going to see here. Again, you see the unauthorized black fence along the edge of the stream bed that the applicant has agreed to take down. But you're seeing a number of things here. Number one, you're seeing significant pools of water as a consequence of a recent stream flow. And look at the character of the ephemeral stream. It's sinuous rather than being a linear ditch. You see an abundance of rounded stones, obviously softened by persistent water flow over the years. What you're also seeing is ripples in the sands in the stream bed, which are evidence of periodic stream flow as well. It's very characteristic to find sandy soils among the majority of the southerly tributaries and stream wetlands in this town. So the underlying soils being sandy are commonplace for tributaries and streams to the Mauritius Bay. So that handout had two photos. The next set of handouts have quite a few photos. These were taken July 1st by my staff, and I would ask you just to take the time to go through these photos. Again, what you're seeing are pools of water as a result of recent flow. You're seeing that in the first photo where you see the canopy of the overhead trees being reflected in the pool of water. Again, in the second photo, as is commonplace to stream beds, even ephemeral or intermittent streams like this, is you see those areas of rounded stones. The third photo shows an additional pool of water. Fourth photo, which is immediately above this property, shows some additional pooling. And You see, there are many other photos, some of which take in a larger area and show that sinuous corridor that is characteristic of streams, whether the streams are flowing on a daily basis or whether or not they're ephemeral and intermittent. That jumps out at you in several of the latter photos in that packet. The next handout, just for history, is the sketch that I had initially provided to you, showing the preliminary recommended 30-foot buffer. This is important because it also shows the close proximity of the residents and accessory improvements to the stream bed.
Thanks.
The next handout is one that shows what was accomplished on the abutting property, the Truns property, which is a much larger property. We had received, we had issued a permit to allow for residential improvements at that property, and those improvements were at significantly greater landward setbacks than the improvements that are proposed at the subject property. And the board saw fit to condition the issuance of the permit on establishment of an expansive covenanted, naturally vegetated buffer. At its closest, it's about 30 feet. Very narrow where there's a pre-existing accessory barn, but otherwise it expands to 75 feet or greater. Perhaps more importantly, when we had received that application, the entire stream bed was heavily choked with invasive Japanese knotweed thickets. So we had, in the interest of restoring and enhancing the wetlands and the stream corridor, we had conditioned the wetlands permit upon removal of the knotweed. You couldn't even see the stream bed when the knotweed was present. Initially, the landowner faced some challenges deciding how to remove that knotweed, but then worked closely with me and a local landscaper to successfully remove virtually 99% of that Japanese knotweed without the use of herbicides. Consistent with my guidance. The way that knotweed was removed is I first had cut and remove the above ground canes and stalks and leafy growth. I then had them go in with a skid steer very carefully to go under the rhizomes of the knotweed. I then had them sift out that native sand and soil to get the rhizomes out. And I had them do that at least a second time in order to get the majority of the rhizomes out. That's important because if you leave a significant quantity of rhizomes and vegetative material. That material is likely to resprout and recolonize the site. The landowner, Mr. Truns, has also worked out a management agreement with a local landscaper where she will be returning to the site on a regular basis to remove any reemerging knotweed. Right now, there's a few widely scattered sprouts that are coming out of the ground, and again, that they will be hand pulled or hand dug and removed without the use of herbicides. Now, part of that stream corridor reclamation also involved removal of invasives in the upland area, as well as planting of a significant amount of wetland and adjacent upland native vegetation. Rather than plant the actual stream bed and flagged wetlands, it was my recommendation that upon the knotweed removal, that they leave that area alone so we could monitor that area to see if over time we have wetland plants and more desirable native vegetation coming in. So the adjacent landowner made a tremendous effort in order to restore that stream bed. So my interest, of course, is in continuing to work with the other landowners who have properties that abut this stream bed in order to remove any invasive vegetation and restore naturally vegetated buffers. At the subject property, the prior owner had, right along that black fence line, had created a mounded berm, a low-mounded berm of native, of ornamental landscape plants. It appears that that was done in order to prevent any floodwater from coming into the lower portion of the property. I have asked that as part of the buffer restoration that artificial mounded berm be removed, that the affected area be reclaimed back to naturalized grades, that the area be that any existing lawn or ornamental vegetation be removed, and that the buffer be planted with natives. There are some large oak trees, as was touched upon, that I'm also looking to preserve as part of my buffer design. So headwaters areas are particularly sensitive to contamination because any contaminants such as lawn fertilizers or pesticides that get in that area, they not only impact the soils and wildlife and plant life and ground and intermittent surface waters, but they eventually find their way down into the tributary of Onet Creek and into Murch's Bay. So in acknowledgement of the significant values that I think this ephemeral stream provides, recognizing its importance as headwaters for a tributary to the Murch's Bay, respecting the tremendous effort that was made by the adjacent landowner to restore this stream corridor. I'm yet asking that an absolute minimum buffer of 25 feet be established. If you look at the plan that I provided that shows the Trun's property and the Edgar property, you'll see that even with a 25-foot buffer, the landowner would still have about 17-foot wide corridor of lawn between the elevated pool deck and the natural buffer. So while the applicant may not have anticipated that she would need to restore a portion of the property, I would ask that she work with the town to be a good environmental steward and to work with us to protect and restore that stream corridor. And as indicated, that fence, of course, is interfering with wildlife movement, and that fence needs to be removed, which the applicant has agreed to. Although I initially recommended a 30-foot wide buffer because of the landowner's concerns and acknowledging the constraints of the property. As indicated, I did compromise and then recommend that only a 25-foot buffer be established by recognizing the ecological significance of this ephemeral stream. I simply can't support a smaller buffer than that. Thank you.
Any comments?
Thank you, Marty. Clearly, I should have brought more handouts. I appreciate Marty's perspective on this, and of course, as this board knows, he and I mostly agree. So this is a rare instance where we don't. I don't think that the two properties are analogous. Yes, they border the same drainage ditch, but the Trun's property, which by the way I worked on, it's more than 3 times the size of the subject property. Also, the configuration of the property is such that the area that is designated as buffer has very little impact on their ability to use the rest of the property. There was a driveway there to begin with. There was no really ability to use that in any effective way. And so that division along there made a lot of sense for that particular property. I think it's appropriate to look at what makes sense for this particular property. So, let's talk about this ephemeral stream bed / drainage ditch is what the surveyor called it. These are waters that are draining from Montauk Highway through a Suffolk County concrete pipe and discharging about, 500 or 1,000 feet up from this property. This property is doing nothing but cleanse that contaminated water. We're certainly not adding anything to it. And a well-vegetated native species buffer of 15 feet is more than adequate to accommodate the seasonal flow or episodic flow really that you get there, and anything other than a 100-year storm, which we can't really design against from this perspective. So I appreciate Marty's perspective. I appreciate what was done next door. I supported it. But in this particular case, when we're looking at this particular property, you're talking about a buffer that's going to occupy 18% of the property. That's more than the house. So I think that 15 feet is reasonable. We've developed a really excellent planting plan that contains all of the essential elements. I think that the photos that Marty gave you really actually support our case. They show that this is a very narrow channel. I mean, this happened on July 1st. I was there today. It's dry as a bone. If you went on July 3rd, Because, no, yeah, July 3rd, it was dry as a bone then too. It dries out immediately. The entire bed of this ephemeral feature is sand. So, and the fact that, Mr. Truns undertook such a substantial knotweed control project is laudable, but it has nothing to do with us. What it has to do with us is a 15-foot buffer, something that is reasonable in the situation on this particular property. And I posit to this board that is entirely the case.
Well, we're going all around in my head. I'm listening. And we're going from wetland, which says here, delineated by Aram, wetlands delineated by Aram, to a ditch, a drainage ditch, okay? So we're going over to ephemeral stream. So I think it's something that's there that needs to be taken care of, okay? You certainly have room for a 30-foot buffer. There's plenty of room on the sides of the pool to utilize the land there. So you're having a big disagreement with our advisor, and we have a tendency to lean towards listening to him. So it's difficult, as much as you have presented in a very gentlemanly way, it's very difficult to acquiesce. So
Just for clarity, I'm recommending a 25-foot buffer, not a 30.
See how generous he is?
As I said, we mostly get along.
See how generous he is? So that's where my head is at, Aram.
I appreciate that. Listen, Marty and his staff do a really good job. They have a tremendous workload, worse than mine. So, we think that 15 is reasonable. Marty thinks that 25 is reasonable. If this board wants to, split the difference, I think that my client would accept that. Perhaps that's a meaningful compromise.
Didn't Marty already compromise?
Yeah, he did.
So now you want him to compromise even more?
I do.
At least you're direct.
The numbers are the numbers.
You're great. You see that with a straight face.
30 feet is already below the minimum, right?
Well, these are the situations where reading the law, looking at the application, looking at the site, listening to the staff report, listening to the applicant, we don't always have a cut and dried number that we can adhere to. But I do look at that one standard in the law of 25 feet for a drainage basin. We're talking about essentially less than the distance between me and Marty. These are the kind of things that I don't like to spend a lot of time on.
Well, it's only one hearing.
If you want to adjourn and have a conversation about it and come back another time. To just go back with 25-15, 25-15, it's just going to be back and forth.
Yeah, no, it's just going to be back and forth. I made my case for the applicant. The board is either persuaded or they're not. And if not, then Marty's suggestion is going to hold. I just disagree. I think it's overkill. We're talking about, a sand bed. Yes, it has functions. They're important functions. We should protect those functions. But, really, 25 is an arbitrary number as well. It's just a number.
Well, in my head, 25 adds a little bit more protection than 15.
You do a really nice planting plan, as you can see we've done. You know, there's where your benefit really comes from. That's the thing that is going to be there 365, providing the habitat and the cleansing effect.
As you always do, you speak well with a logical explanation of why you want what you want. But what I'm hearing is the board is not swayed in this particular case. And the board, from what I'm hearing, the board wants to do 25. So it'd be nice if you could agree. If you don't, we don't have to have your agreement, but, but
I mean, we could,
That's true, isn't
we
it?
could,
So
We could agree, we can
why don't we
disagree.
adjourn it, and I'll do a review with my client in a, you know, non-pressure situation, and we will advise.
We want to work with, you know, Marty and do the appropriate things. It's not, I'm not trying, we're not trying to.
we do have to sort of hear you by the mic, so feel free to say, stand up.
I said, we do want to work with Marty and preserve the integrity, you know, that is important. And I know the Trunz family, I respect what they have done, you know, so, you know, we can talk to Aram and come back, but.
My sympathy goes towards the fact that you're actively planting after actively removing the invasive stuff. I mean, that's what makes me feel a little bit better about it, but just the general depth of the buffer is just something that I think is still just something we just don't agree on. But I do appreciate that this is not just a passive buffer, it's actually active and you're removing invasive stuff. And that I do believe has some merit. So I do appreciate that too.
No, of course. I feel like, you know, we bought the house and there were some things that the prior owner had done that we do want to correct. And, you know.
Okay. So maybe when you have some leisure time and not under pressure from us saying, doesn't sound like we're going to agree anyway, so you have to either say yes or no, we're just going to go at it all night. Just adjourn it and have a good conversation with Marty about what might be another mitigative measure to help us agree with you.
Thank you so much.
Adjourn to when?
September.
Over 10 feet.
No, I don't know. I don't know what your schedule is.
Next meeting is the 23rd.
Okay. I'm sure that we could have a conversation
August
between now and
13th
then.
or 27th. I mean, you've got to come to an agreement
Yeah,
and
it's-
then plot it
we're
on
not,
surveys.
We're not
so-
negotiating tariffs here. This is
Yeah, so just-
gonna be easier than that.
Keep plotting on a survey or a plan, just for whatever your people need to do to put it on paper. So 2 weeks is not enough time? Okay.
23rd it is.
There are only two hearings on it.
Who's on them? Yeah, we can do that.
Because this one is not even heard yet. Well, okay. So 23rd is fine with me.
Is there anyone in the public like to speak on this application or on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Motion to adjourn to July 23rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The administrative wetland permits are in your packets. Resolution conditional approval, A 021077, Anthony Rapillo. This is postponed to July 23rd, 2025. Is there a motion to postpone?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 024056, Crypto Avenue LLC. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Crypto Avenue LLC for the proposed project by the terms and conditions set forth herein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 024061, Andrew Sackett and Deborah Troy Sackett. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Andrew Sackett and Deborah Troy Sackett for the proposed project and terms and conditions set forth herein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 024068134 Middle Pond Road LLC. This is postponed to July 23rd, 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion to postpone to July 23rd, 2025.
All in favor? Opposed? A 0240773 WHB 29 Shore RD LLC. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland hold approval granted to WHB 29 Shore RD LLC for the proposed project in terms and conditions set forth herein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025005 Allison M. Generich and Kevin M. Generich. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland protocol is granted to Allison M. Generich and Kevin M. Generich for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth herein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025014 Vincent Montrone. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Resolved that a conditional wetland protocol is granted to Vincent Montrone
Very
for the
good, friends.
proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth herein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preliminary review secret determination, A 024077 Colin Heffron. This is postponed to July 23rd, 2025.
Motion to postpone to July 23rd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? A 025006 Peter Smith and Susan Miller Smith.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated July 7, 2025. This application relates to existing residentially developed property on the west side of Bay Avenue in Flanders. It's also located on the south side of a private road known as Nets Place. Abuts to the south an extensive tract of county reserved wetlands and coastal woodlands that interfaces with the Reeves Bay. As indicated by the advisory report, the application has been made in response to a citation that was issued to the landowner for construction of a roof over pergola on the west side of a detached garage along the west property line without requisite permits. Acknowledging that the structure neither meets the dimensional setback requirements as per the town building and zoning code, nor does it meet the required wetland setbacks. The applicant has agreed to disassemble and remove that pergola and to remove the supporting post as well. When I inspected the property, I found that a 6-foot-high stockade fence with lattice screen above had recently been installed along the west property line extending down to Nets Place, and that there is additional fence in excess of 6 feet along Bay Avenue. Consistent with requirements of the building and zoning code, no fence line on the front of the residence, which would be the frontage on the next place, can exceed 6 feet. And then the remaining fence line along Bay Avenue cannot exceed 6 feet. So there are fence modifications that are needed. We had also found that The existing elevated wood deck and steps had been reconstructed without requisite permits. So that work needs to be legalized as well. At the time of the site visit, I flagged the boundaries of the wetlands, which are in the southwest corner of the lot, that need to be picked up by the surveyor. And as indicated on my drawing, recommending a minimal buffer in that area that would extend 15 feet landward of the south property line, in a manner that would be consistent with and contiguous with the buffer that was required on the abutting lot to the west. That buffer will need to be covenanted and restored by removal of wood ties, ornamental plants, and installation of native vegetation. I've also asked that any mowing of the rear yard area that's encroaching within the abutting county preserved lands be discontinued. It's hard to see it, but the large trees that you've seen just south of the property overshadow mowed lawn. This is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive
They're
the,
agreeing, excuse me, they're agreeing to make all its fence modifications then? They're agreeing to make all,
I'm sorry, I
they're
didn't
agreeing to
hear you.
make all the fence modifications? Agreeing to make all the fence
Yes,
modifications,
yes.
okay. Sorry, George.
Sorry.
that's okay. Motion to waive the public hearing?
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025021, Maurel Carbonneau and Donna Carbonneau.
This is Charbonneau?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, this application relates to an existing residentially developed property in the private community of Shinnecock Shores in East Quogue. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated July 7, 2025. The property has frontage on Benita Road, as well as the head of a man-made bulkheaded canal. Initially, the landowner had approached me because they were looking to complete interior renovations to the existing residence, as there is at least 100 linear feet of functional bulkheaded frontage along the surface waters, and the residence is located at least 50 feet landward of the bulkhead. I indicated that no wetland permit was necessary for that activity. However, that there were substantial hardscape improvements that had been made at the site within 50 feet of the bulkhead without requisite wetland permits. In summation, those improvements include construction of a bocce court, two frame sheds, installation of various fences, brick patio, stepping stones, concrete retaining wall that is located 14 to 15 feet landward of the bulkhead. That was installed to support the higher terrain behind that retaining wall. There is an unauthorized planted bed of ornamental grasses. There is a exterior sink. There are various paver walks. There is unauthorized 7-foot-high deer fence down at the southwest corner of the lot. There are extensive pea stone or gravel beds running along the bulkheaded frontage. And then a review of the history of this property showed that natural vegetation had been cleared within 15 feet of the bulkhead in order to establish the gravel areas. So I am recommending that the applicants establish a 15-foot wide covenanted buffer, naturally vegetated buffer landward of the bulkhead, and that would be consistent with the Conservation Board wetland protection standards for bulkheaded lots in Shinnecock Shores. The establishment of that buffer will require that the pervious stone and hard surfaced walks and deer fence be removed above the retaining wall. The remaining hardscape improvements can be legalized. Although some of those improvements are cited shy of the 40-foot setback that this board typically seeks for construction, we have a history of being a little bit more flexible where the location of those improvements is on higher ground that's separated from the waterway by a retaining wall. So the concrete retaining wall, which is 14 to 15 feet landward of the bulkhead, can be legalized. As indicated, a naturally vegetated buffer needs to be established along that north and southerly running corridor. That could be accomplished by planting beach grass or by installing more diverse seaside suitable native vegetation subject to my office's approval. This is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025026, Craig Arm and Kerry Arm.
This application relates to an existing residentially developed property that has frontage on Quantuck Bay and contains extensive tidal wetlands. As indicated by my July 1, 2025 advisory report, the property is located on Montauk Highway in the hamlet of Queoc and does have a history of Conservation Board approvals in that this board had issued several permits, the latest of which allowed for demolition of a prior residence and residential redevelopment with the new dwelling built essentially in the same footprint as the former residence. The residence also has patio areas and decks and impervious stone drive. That permit had been conditioned upon establishment of a covenanted buffer extending 50 feet landward of wetlands, which, inclusive of the on-site vegetated wetlands, takes in a sizable portion of the property along Quantuck Way, as you can see on the aerial photograph. The landowner is looking to sell the property and never officially closed out the prior Conservation Board permit. So this application has been made in order to seek reapproval of the formally authorized residential development activities, as well as to address some minor modifications that subsequently have been made at the site. There is nothing about the site conditions today that would warrant a further expansion of the existing 50-foot covenanted buffer. And as you can see in the aerial photograph, the buffer is in excellent shape. The changes that were made primarily consist of an expansion of the pervious drive, which was done in the interest of vehicular safety to allow for turnaround while you're in the driveway, as it's very difficult to back out onto Sunrise onto Montauk Highway. The site clearance is very poor. That being said, this is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the hearing requirement be waived so that at the next meeting, the needed wetland permit can be conditionally approved so that the applicant can soon move forward with filing for the requisite certificate of wetland compliance to close out the history of permits related to this property. Thank you.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8 of the Town Code. All in favor? Opposed?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.